Good morning, Minecrafters, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 3, Managing Re-Entry. I think we can probably all agree worldwide that the year 2020 will certainly go down in history, and I've heard many people say, it just seems like the year that just won't end. My memory is there's a little bit of talk about, the COVID-19 or the Rona, as people are saying over here, in January a little bit gradually, and then by February it was starting to blow up all over the place, Europe and other parts of the world. And I remember, Italy certainly had, the center stage in the media over here for just doing everything they can. It was just exploding. Italy has a fantastic health system and healthcare system, and they were even, struggling. There's so much, panic and fear and all the deaths and tragedy and just all this momentum. Then, of course, coming over here to the States, and it's still blowing up over here. And all over the world, people have been affected, all over the world, with just so much tragedy, anxiety, and again, fear and fear-based energy going on. And now here we are in, mid-September, where some people are just starting, kind of to get, back into school and the workplace, and yet the pandemic's not really over, and this all looks really different. And how do we manage that? So we're going to talk about how do we manage this. We're not completely through it. Things look weird and different. We don't know what's going to happen. And how do we do this exactly? It's also important that, Minecrafters, my listeners across the globe, we're now up to 41 countries, by the way. It's awesome. Across the world, that we realize that this is a trauma, and we're not done yet. And I've heard people say, "Oh, the pandemic, well, it's kind of like a trauma." It's not kind of like a trauma. It is trauma. So if anyone has also had anything else happen, during their childhoods and through their lives, this is, also can be flipping a switch on us. Having the pandemic happening now can also be bringing back all that stuff. And it's important to really acknowledge this and the do the best we can part. In fact, thinking of all the intensity, my husband and I had planned to go to New Orleans this past March, which in the States, the middle of March, I think it was March, I think we got back on March 10th. You're only there for like 5 days. And I remember that we had planned it, and by then the Corona thing was getting big here, but not quite yet. It hadn't totally blown up. And here we had planned this, and we actually had a deal, we had a very good deal with the whole trip. We didn't pay that much for it. We hadn't seen a lot of each other running around working, and it was really looking forward to it. Like, oh, should we go? Should we go? Like, oh, it's only 4 days. 4 days, I think it was, 5 at the most. So when we went down, it was like, ooh, but it was still okay. But gaining momentum. Literally, without exaggeration, by day 4, we weren't sure we were going to get home. That the airports were going to shut down. It was that much of a difference just in 4 days. And being at the airport with people, just you could see it in their eyes. They're scared. They're staying 95 feet away from each other. If you even sneezed, you got leered at because people think you're carrying the Rona when it could have been an allergy. It could have been just an itch, something. And you could just feel that, like, it was worse than fear. I want to say terrified in the airport. It went that quickly. And so to think that we could, kind of go through this, regardless of what country you're in, obviously the coronavirus is going around the entire world, to kind of, I'm thinking of the New Orleans thing, because that's my own memory. But to think of that experience and the fear there, to think that we just, shed that like a snake sheds a skin, just molting to shed it. That just isn't how it works. We're still kind of in this shortstop ready position stance, even though some of that immediate fear is behind us, because it's not over. It isn't over. And no one really knows what's going to happen. Will it come back in the winter? We don't know. In the United States, it hasn't even left. So we don't know. And to think that we've just left that behind casually is just not realistic. It's also not realistic to think that we're going back to quote unquote normal, whatever that is. And I'm in academia. I'm in higher education. As you know, I teach. I'm a professor at a college. And there have been some people who, they're still saying, well, when things get back to normal, that isn't going to happen. That isn't going to happen. And truthfully, one of the biggest things we can do in this current situation, regardless of what country you live in or what your job is, and whether you're a parent or you're not a parent, or you're taking care of aging parents, whatever is going on in your life for you, one of the biggest things we can all do is acceptance. As far as this is how it's going to be, even though we don't know how it's going to be. Acceptance is the key to most problems. This came from the 12-step programs. And it's true. It doesn't mean cave in and be defeated. We're not talking about that. We're talking about coming to a place, and this is not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but to realize that this is how it is for now. And if you remember some episodes back, and we talked about stress, one of my favorite definitions is stress is wishing that the present moment were something other than it is. Wanting the present moment to be something other than it is. It is so true. So when we actually kind of accept that things are uncertain right now and chaotic right now, and that they are more than likely not going to go back to how they were, at least not entirely, right away in that moment, our new moment, we are right away better off. And as the very, very famous psychoanalyst Carl Jung has said, that which we resist will persist. So, so, so true. And it's counterintuitive, because we might want to wrestle with this pandemic, just wrestle, take it down on the mat and beat it, and then just resist, dig in with our nails and, go away, stop. We want things back the way they were. And here's the big news flash. Not going to happen. So as far as providing some tips and strategies for managing reentry, I'm going to have some real practical ones. I'm going to try to cover as many, kind of life circumstances as I can. And of course, we'll have to revisit how to manage anxiety, because change in general, for some people is very, very hard. And we've talked about most of life things landing on a spectrum, right? Just like, again, playing the violin, autism, sexuality. Usually people aren't just on one end or the other. There's a whole middle, right? So some people, even before the pandemic, just weren't big fans of change, and then enter something that's absolutely overwhelming. It's enough to throw anybody in a spin. So we're going to talk about that as well. So to begin, we're going to start with some easy ones, just some easy things to kind of put into place. So many of us, again, I'm a professor, so we've had to pivot and shift, and now we're doing something called a flex hybrid, and so we're part virtual, part in person. It's been challenging. Personally, I like a challenge. I'm not going to say it's easy. It's still a challenge, actually, but it's getting smoother. So for anyone who is still virtual or partially virtual, meaning you're working out of your home, one sort of rather easy thing to start doing, if you're not already, is to get dressed in the morning. Get dressed as if you were getting on the subway, in a car, or walking to work, makeup on, or whatever it is your morning ritual is. Get dressed, because this is a very clear signal to your brain that the day is starting, even if you're just on your couch. Another a sort of simple, more concrete or tangible tip, which I'm about to do myself now that a lot of teaching is virtual, is to create an office space of your own at home. Now, realizing there are people that don't have a lot of space, and if you can't actually designate a room, which is certainly understandable, even in the smallest studio apartment, it's possible to create a space, even if it's a corner. And it can be fun to move things around. It kind of changes things up a little bit. And, put a couple of pictures there, maybe for me, your golden retriever, and make it a workspace, because it's very, very important to not work where you relax. So in other words, very, very bad to be working out of your bedroom. Very, very not good, not healthy. Nishki, not healthy, not good. Also true, college students, if you're listening, not the best idea, a very, very bad idea for you to be studying in your dorm room. It's, even if you have a common room down the hallway, like lobby area, common room, best if you can go to the library, something that's entirely different atmosphere. So that's one, again, even in the smallest space, if you can't leave to do work, then try to designate at least a corner that you don't sit and read like a novel for pleasure or something, that it's completely your workspace. And when you're done, you're done. This leads us to tip number 3, also works for college students, works for any young adults, seasoned adults, anybody in school and working or both, including if you're an at-home parent. That is absolutely work. I know I did it with 5. So really it reaches, I don't know who it wouldn't reach, okay? So it's very, very important, just like it was important to get dressed and start your day, it's very, very important to decide a time at the end of the day and stick to it. Stick to it. If you, and also actually I have my kids helping me with this now, my young adult children. Mom, he said, after 8 o'clock, your computer is off. And sometimes we watch a movie, we played Scrabble, we did different things. But that means not 8:02, 8:03, definitely not 8:15. If it's 8 o'clock p.m., it's very important mentally because you're going to have unfinished business. There's going to be emails to still return. You would have probably done most of it, but not all of it. And this can be an addicting thing, especially since we're in the age of computers. It's very hard. It can be very hard for me to turn it off. But you got to draw a line in the sand for mental health. At 8, again, for me, it's 8 p.m. Shut it off. It's off. And then whatever you have not gotten done isn't going to get done on this day. Not going to get done on this day. Tip number 3, draw a line in the sand. Then tip number 4 is to actually have some sort of bedtime goodnight ritual. So again, for me, I chose 8 p.m. for my computer, which actually I'm going to lower. Usually we have dinner and then I check things like afterwards and then it's 8 p.m. I may change that. But as long as you have a draw line in the sand, that's what we're really looking for. Then, maybe if you go to bed at 10 or 11 or whatever, very, very important to have a routine. If it's dinner, then read a novel for pleasure, spend time with a partner, good night ritual with kids, watch a movie, go for a walk, whatever you do, to have a plan. So whatever's not getting done on this day, line drawn there, not happening, and then have some kind of closure. Chamomile tea at night, whatever. We're not saying it has to be the exact same thing every night, but that there's a wind down to the day. If you wear sweats, pajamas, whatever, put those on so your brain knows the day is over. So that'd be tip number 4. Just a suggestion, because we know with anybody who's got insomnia, it's a really good idea if you have trouble sleeping to be completely off your screen, all screens included. Cell phones, computers, tablets, any of it, turn them off 2 hours before you go to sleep. And if for somebody who has extreme insomnia, that would include TV too. If you're going to get rid of the screens, you will sleep much, much, much better. So with the pandemic, somebody who may not have had trouble sleeping is now having trouble sleeping. So this is a very, very good suggestion. It's also good. The brain is very responsive to lighting. So it's good to dim lights before you go to bed. And hot shower, hot bath, any kind of soothing something, and that's it. Bedtime routine. If you are a parent of small kids who you're still have a putting to bed at night, this is important anyway, even without the pandemic situation. It's a very, very important for kids to have routine, as I'm sure you know. And during a pandemic, it's even more important. And it's also important that your kids are aware that you have a routine, because kids very quickly pick up, do as I say, not as I do, and especially teenagers. So them seeing that you have a routine is also very important. Teenagers still need a lot of parenting, as you know. Teenagers need a lot of parenting. So helping them to help themselves and take those screens away, figure out a way to say it better so that they're part of the conversation. That tends to work better for teenagers than just, authoritarian removal of something, unless, of course, there's a consequence for unwanted behavior. That's different. But, in a regular situation, to make them a part of the conversation, maybe establish a place where everybody puts their cell phones at night, like a basket, drawer, something. That's a good idea if you have teenagers or young adults. And to kind of help them, assist them with helping themselves and practicing good self-care. Most important for mom and dad, or mom and mom, or dad and dad, or single dad or mom or whatever, to role model that for them and draw attention to it. Say, look, dad's taking care of himself. It's in the drawer. Another really good talk, this is tip number 5, is to adjust the bar. That's tip number 5. This works for everybody, no matter, regardless of your age, whether you're, 5, 25, 50, 80, older, to adjust the bar, and I've had quite a few students who've been recovering perfectionists, and that's when you just want to plain delete because it's just not a bar I want in my life. That's for sure. I don't want to reach for it. I don't want to try. I don't want to talk about it. I don't even allow the word in our house, perfection, because think about it. Even if you do reach it, for whatever it is, context for that, all you're doing is checking a box. There's nowhere to go but down, right? It's just not healthy. So the bar people talk about, quote unquote, the bar, adjust it. Well, for me, I adjust it to do my best. I do my best every day in every way. That is my bar. And my best on any day in any given situation is going to be different. If you've got the flu, your best is going to be different than when you wake up feeling like dancing, pound some OJ in the morning, you're ready to go. That's going to be a different best than when you don't feel well. Or when your child doesn't feel well and you've been up all night with them throwing up and changing sheets and everything else. So adjust that bar. Adjust the bar to do the best you can. Okay, I think we're on tip number 6 now, and if not, we'll just end up with an extra one. So the adjust the bar to do my best. I was at a Melissa Estrich concert years ago. I have a friend who's a total groupie. She follows her all over the place, and she was very good, I have to say. One of the best concerts I've been to, and very engaged with her audience. And I figured it was towards the end. She actually talks to her audience. It's pretty amazing. And I didn't really, I hadn't heard too many of her songs. I know, Come Through My Window, I think it is. I really like that one. But anyway, she's talking to her audience, and she just started having this conversation with, I do the best I can every day in every way. Melissa Estrich. And I just, man, that is a keeper. I'm going to keep that, which rolls into, tip number 6 is the good enough parent, the good enough employee, the good enough college student, the good enough elementary, the good enough middle school student, the good enough parent taking care of their parent, their aging parent. It's so important to tell ourselves, actually say it to ourselves. I'm good enough. I'm good enough. No one's striving for perfect. I'm good enough. And this actually came from Donald Winnicott in the 50s. He has started with this theory, came up with this theory about the good enough mother, which obviously that was the 50s. So in 2020, that would be the good enough parent or parents. And his whole theory was based on taking care of infants and attachment. So it was about balancing meeting the infant's needs with also kind of guiding them to manage the challenges and frustrations and discomfort that the world brings, obviously at an infant level, right? So managing that balance of being there the high majority of the time, picking her up when she's hungry, sick, tired, just wanting affection and needing affection and love, and also starting to allow some of the stuff that happens in life, and also as they grow older, same thing, balance. And he found that when the again, the good enough mother at that in the 50s, that when a child had this kind of good enough mother and this attachment, that they turned out to be very, very happy and well-adjusted adults. And I think we could use to revisit this Donald Winnicott's theory now during the coronavirus, right? And also kind of expand on this again to the good enough parent, and then the good enough employee, which includes lots of different jobs, right? And those of you on the front lines still, the good enough healthcare worker, the good enough teacher, the good enough homeschool parent now, the good enough doing a good enough job taking care of an aging parent, and just transferring that and accepting that this is the best I can do. The good enough, fill in the blank. That's tip 6. And tip number 7 is remember the importance of the breath, a welcoming breath. And also, Minecrafters out there listening, realize these are not in any order. I'm literally not looking at a script right now. I've also written several articles on this lately. I would have had breathing up front more. So the importance of deliberate breathing. Obviously, breathing is, valuable for the, obvious, keeping us alive. But we're talking about deliberate breathing, just big, because this is an immediate reset for the brain, an immediate reset, taking us out of next Tuesday, last year, next year. What am I making for dinner? Will I get a call from the school today? My kid's only in school 2 days a week. Are they going to now take that away? What am I going to do if they do that? What if? What if I only stay virtual so long and my company decides we're not paying for everybody to be at home and then I'm without a job? Okay. The deliberate breathing is an immediate relief from that. Tip 8, again, not in any kind of order, is to be mindful as much as possible, which means to be in the present moment as much as possible. And one of the many things I like about mindfulness is that we can't do it wrong. So it's not, oh, there I go again. I can't even do this right. There I go again. There goes my anxiety. There goes my depression. No, all we do is take another deep breath. Okay. And if that anxious thought went by, we say, okay, it must be I'm nervous today. It must be I'm anxious today. Who cares? Welcome to the human race. We are in a pandemic. I'm nervous today. And then start over and take a big deep breath and be mindful doing whatever you're doing. If you're reading a book to your child, you're washing the dishes, you're eating, you're on a walk, you're having 5-star sex with a partner, whatever it is, be in the moment. And then, as we've discussed in previous episodes, many episodes, so if you're listening for the first time or second time, there's a lot more detail about this in previous episodes, okay? So when the monkey mind stuff starts, that thought chatter with the pandemic, the Rona stuff, will I be laid off? Will I be furloughed? I can't stand this. What if I don't see my friends again? What if they hire somebody else? What if? Remember that you are the boss of your brain. You are the boss of your brain. So then you respond with, not today, maybe tomorrow. This, you have to keep up with it because we know the brain is like a toddler. It's going to have a tantrum when you try to, stop it from being negative. It's going to have a tantrum because even the adult brain wants what it wants when it wants it. Just like a toddler wants M&Ms. The brain is also lazy, and it's going to want to do what's familiar. So if that's your kind of your MO or your agenda is the what if thinking, it's going to continue to do that because it's familiar and comfortable, and you're reinforcing it when you allow it, right? So by saying not today, maybe tomorrow, you're kind of tricking the brain into having an appointment with you tomorrow to do all the what if thinking or self-deprecating or whatever. And then obviously the next day you say it again, not today, maybe tomorrow. And you got to stay committed to it, follow through with it, just like a good parent, to redirect this behavior right through the mental tantrum that it's going to have. And about 21 days is how long it takes for a habit to shift and stick. Number 9, do your best to reduce your caffeine intake. Is anybody who's anxious anyway, kind of deals with anxiety on a regular basis, wants to really minimize your caffeine intake. As somebody who's nervous and jittery and anxious is going to be, amped up times 100 if you're also taking in a lot of caffeine. So if going cold turkey and getting off of it isn't realistic for you, which it probably isn't for the high majority of people, try to just reduce it. Try to reduce it. And certainly if you're having trouble sleeping, anytime after 2:00 is not a good idea. If you're somebody who has kind of intermittent anxiety, like maybe you're not diagnosed, you don't have it a lot, but you have it sometimes. If you have it sometimes, if you wake up, and this happens to me, if you wake up and you're just feeling racy that day, you can just tell yourself, you know what, for today or maybe just the first part of this day, I'm gonna just lay off the caffeine for today, and I'll reevaluate, at lunchtime and see what's going on. But if you start out racy, it's best to avoid caffeine. Tip 10 is to get outside, and I'm going to involve exercise in the same tip. Exercise is often outside, though not always. There are people who are, let's say gym rats. I don't mean it badly, I mean it with affection. If you have a treadmill in your house, good for you. But it's super important to get outside, even if that's a 15-minute walk. If you're super urban, you're in Manhattan, um, Tokyo, wherever, okay? Get outside. It's just so important to breathe. It's so important to breathe. And yeah, get outside. Very, very, very important. Even for 15 minutes. And just, an added little psychology / nutrition fun fact, for memory wise, that it's been, research has demonstrated a gazillion times how much eating blueberries will prevent memory loss. Truth right there. Second would be walnuts. So stack up on the start getting those supplies up for blueberries and walnuts, and you'll be in a much better shape as an older person. And exercising itself is not, it's such, oh my God, it's just so good for one's mental health. I like to ski, I run, been doing pretty well I have a pretty low bar for myself, actually, at least 3 times a week, and I aim for 4, and it's working out pretty well. Even if you do a run, walk, or, you have to want to do it, you have to like it, because willpower is only going to take us so far. If it helps to have a friend or, a family member do something with you, that's great. Just get out there, and also exercise, and obviously just all the way around, heart and mind and everything, and also memory wise. I love to talk about this as my degrees in cognitive psychology, that it's huge for prevention of any kind of cognitive decline. No guarantee, certainly, but the cards are way stacked in your favor if you've been exercising most of your life. Just tossing that out. Tip 10 kind of leads into tip 11. And I don't have any, again, I'm not looking at a script. I have no plan for this right now. They're coming right out of my own cabeza, okay? So tip 11 is carve out at least 15 minutes. That is not a lot to ask. You can spend that much time in the bathroom, literally, okay? 15 minutes once each day to do something that makes your heart sing. We call this leisure. Okay, there's not any goal in mind. If it's reading, that's great, as long as it's for leisure. I'm a professor, so I love reading no matter what. And I have to, if I'm reading a novel, that's total leisure, right? Anything. It can be, whatever is a healthy escape for you. At least 15 minutes. And many of us, especially if we're in the routine of being a parent, we may have to kind of force ourselves to schedule this like we would schedule a dentist appointment or a haircut, because it can be very hard, especially for parents who are in the stage where their kids are really little, and when they're infants, toddlers. We get so used to meeting needs all day long, as we're supposed to, right? Being good parents, and still we need to recharge our own batteries in at least 15 minutes to do something that makes your heart sing. So important. Okay, and this leads into a simple pleasure, which is related to leisure, but not necessarily the same thing. I know, I think of a simple pleasure, it's September, so I'm going to say, no, the creamy stands, or soft ice cream, we used to call them in New York, and my grandmother used to call them custard, I think. To go to an ice cream stand, and, that last end of summer ice cream, that's a simple pleasure. It's such a great simple pleasure. And I realize this is another food example, and they don't have to be. But I'm thinking of, it's so fun, and my adult children still love it. Make your own pizza night and movie. It's so great. You can pick an old movie that's kind of uplifting, comedy, and you cut up, the pepperoni, you kind of clean out the fridge for all leftover, veggies, especially now. The gardens have all kind of done their thing, and put everything in little bowls across the counter. This is what I do. And a big bowl of sauce, a big bowl of cheese. Let everybody make their own, and then you put on an old movie, and that's to me is one of the best simple pleasures ever. And a little bit different from leisure, some overlap, but something that's just so enjoyable. And tip 13 is about another be the boss of your brain tip. Okay, if you're feeling anxious, okay, this distraction of inviting a good memory back in will turn your day around. I'm sure, at least in that moment. You might have to do it again. So your long-term memory is like a bookshelf, and there'll be a mix of memories on there, obviously. Pull off one of the good books, and kind of revisit that memory. So here's a little tidbit for you. Sean talks about an experiment, and he says that subjects were asked to make a difficult, time-pressured speech that they were told would be videotaped and evaluated by their peers. As you imagine, this induced considerable anxiety and measurable increases in heart rate and blood pressure. So we had actually briefly talked about this a couple of times, and one of them was with Sean Akers' book, The Happiness Advantage. And this kind of just consciously choosing to pull a happy memory out of our memory banks, our bookshelves. We know, psychologically speaking, that this works, at least in the short term. And this is called the undoing effect. So Sean Akers says, why does this work? Because in addition to broadening our intellectual and creative capacities, positive emotions also provide a swift antidote to physical stress and anxiety, what psychologists call the undoing effect. Then, the researchers randomly assigned the participants to view one of four different videos. Two induced feelings of joy and contentment, one was neutral, and the fourth was sad. Indeed, the people primed for positive feelings experienced a faster recovery from the stress and its physical effects. Of course. Not only had the happy films made them feel better, but they had undone the physiological effects of stress. In other words, a quick burst of positive emotions doesn't just broaden our cognitive capacity, it also provides a quick and powerful antidote to stress and anxiety, which in turn improves our focus and our ability to function at our best level. And that's a good one, but actually this following one is my absolute favorite. It involves doctors and candy, and it's absolutely amazing. The doctors were split into three groups, one primed to feel happy, one given neutral but medicine-related statements to read before the exercise, and one, the control group, given nothing. The goal of the study was not to see how fast they performed the correct diagnosis, but also how well they avoided anchoring, getting stuck. As it turned out, the happy doctors made the right diagnoses much faster and exhibited much more creativity. On average, they came to a correct diagnosis only 20% of the way through the manuscript. That's amazing. Nearly twice as fast as the control group, and showed about 2.5 times less anchoring. He talks about his favorite part of the study, which is mine too. Sean Akers says his favorite part of the study was how the doctors were primed to be happy. They were given lollipops. That's awesome. It didn't take a cash reward or the promise of a promotion or an extra week of vacation to boost their moods enough to make them twice as effective and more than twice as creative. All it took was a small gift of candy right before they started the task. And here's a kicker: they weren't even allowed to eat the candy because that would have potentially skewed the results by elevating their blood sugar levels. This reveals something so important about the happiness advantage in action. Even the smallest shots of positivity can give someone a serious competitive advantage. Take that to the bank. I mean, it's just so important. And so tip 14, not in order, because I would have gratitude journal right up there too. Being grateful, expressing grateful every single day, practicing, cultivating gratitude. Again, we talked about this earlier. We live in northern Vermont. They're surrounded by beautiful farms, and when I think of cultivating, I think of rich, deep, dark soil that's just promotes growth. So cultivating gratitude. And here's the important thing: it's okay to say it. It's good to say it. It's certainly good to say it as much as we can. Even better is to keep a gratitude journal and to write in the journal. I have my Minecraft students do this. They bring it every day to class. And it's important to write, I am grateful for, not just my dog, my partner, dad's homemade chicken soup. I am grateful for my dog because, again, the brain's like a toddler. And in order to kind of drive the point home of how you want the toddler to behave, it takes a whole lot of consistency and repetition. The toddler needs to know what to do. Same is true with the brain. So I am grateful for. And my Minecraft students write down 3 sentences. I keep it very simple because simple is going to work. Okay. I am grateful for my dog. I am grateful for the sunset. I am grateful for this great thing that happened every single day. And to kind of embrace one of the principles of the happiness advantage with the gratitude journal, which is the 20-second rule. Okay. we want to make it easy to make this stick as a habit, right? So my own gratitude journal is on the windowsill of our bedroom. So I have to walk out the door, right past it. It's right there. So you want to make it, you don't have to dig for it to find it. I also have a pen in there, wedged in there, so it could not be easier to just grab it. It takes literally 30 seconds to jot down 3 things I'm grateful for. And it happens nearly every day. I would say 99% of the time. 20-second rule with the gratitude journal. Tip 15 is to find your own power song. Everybody's got one. You might not know you have one, but you have one. Something you can just bounce to, just get in the rhythm. And the power part's important. That actually we feel just rejuvenated and charged and like we have the world by the ass. For me, I'm a big Aretha Franklin fan. In fact, my very sexy red Jeep with the pay it forward license plates in the driveway, her name is Aretha. She's bright red and she's gorgeous. My Aretha Franklin song that is my personal power song is Think. And which rolls right into the one Respect, but Think is my power song. And I dance, no joke, not lightning strike me right now if I'm wired for lies, because I'm not. I stand right on the coffee table when nobody's home, sometimes scantily clad if I just woke up, and just crank it. And a lot of people say, or that cliche, dance like nobody's watching. I'm going to swing and be that rebel. I dance like everybody's watching. Okay, just flying around, and it's best if you're by yourself though, just because you can feel that power, the power of that song. Find your own power song. It's there. You just need to discover it. Okay, Minecrafters, there's 15 good tips. There may have been an extra one in there because I could have lost count. So here's the thing. We know that it's all about being the boss of our brain, right? There are only two choices when it comes to this. Either we control our thoughts or our thoughts control us. I would also like to thank all of you for listening. 41 countries, Dziękuję, Poland. And since it is September 11th in the United States, I want to send the good vibes, the loving energy to any of my fellow Americans whose lives are turned upside down on that day. Families were affected. Also, any of you who are listening or anybody in other countries who happen to be visiting New York on that day, I'd like to also send big, just good vibes and loving energy to you as well. The United States got a whole, choked up here because it's so awful. The United States really received a lot of love from other countries on that day, a lot of love and support. So just want to spread the good energy with some big thank yous and special good vibes going out to FDNY and NYPD and anyone else who kind of was a hero during that tragedy. Big, big blessings, everyone. With that, I will say take some big, deep breaths. Yeah, for sure. Big inhale, big exhale. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from Northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.